concert today.
Go, well, you gotta live like water. Go, well, today is a new day, you gotta find your way. Discover possibilities, now you do it your own way. Gotta find your own way, there's no other way but it's like that, cause you gotta live life, you gotta live life. And I am thankful for the love another day has begun. I'm captivated if you live another day, another chance, and never running free and nobody can stop me, cause life just gets brighter and brighter. If you and I made it this far, oh, there's no need to worry, there's no need to worry.
Jonathan Yabut.
I'm captivated, thinking, get ahead, get on bed, just use your head, you know you gotta live brighter. Everything is good under the sun. You gotta live
Singapore, Shanghai Airport. We're here for another 4 hours. Definitely my favorite airport in the world. Finally boarded our flight to Denmark. Walking barefoot in one of the most amazing temples.
Nakahilo naman yung video. Wala kahilo. Galaw. Masyado lang ginawa realistic.
Alright, let's get things started. Good evening everyone, how are you all doing? Medyo kakaiba yung setup natin today from our usual gatherings at Sun Life. So intimate and cozy. I hope you guys are all comfortable. My name is Len Arboleda. Welcome to the Live Brighter session being brought to you by Sun Life Financial. Of course, you know, I can imagine that it might have been a challenge for some of you to join us today with all your responsibilities at home, at work, and midweek Wednesday. Baka medyo stressful yung linggo ninyo so far. Well, this might exactly be just what you need. Because today we're gonna listen to some inspiring speakers. We're gonna have some cocktails later on, and we're gonna listen to some music. So relax lang tayo and chill lang tayo in our Live Brighter session tonight. And of course, we're also gonna be giving away prizes. We have a raffle draw happening later on. We're giving away T-sets from TWG and Swatch watches. So in case you haven't registered yet, please do so outside so that you can qualify for our raffle. But of course, the best prize that any of us will be taking home tonight are the insights and the learnings from our speakers today. And we're gonna get a glimpse of the fantastic future that is in store for us if only we make the choice to live brighter. Pero ano nga ba yung Live Brighter? What is the Live Brighter session all about? Well, here to explain it to us, please welcome Recruitment Manager for Sun Life Financial, Ms. Fin Bernardo.
Thank you, Len. Good evening, everyone. How are you feeling right now? Parang gusto kong maupo rin dyan. Kaya lang, hindi ko alam kung makakatayo pa ako pag naupo ako dyan, no? Anyway, thank you for gracing this Live Brighter Forum. We have been Live Brighter session. Well, Sun Life conducts this event basically to reach out to young Filipinos. Because there might be Filipinos out there, especially our millennials, who are looking for motivation and encouragement, particularly in terms of career and the occupation and their businesses. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to reach out specifically to your followers. No? It's never really easy finding an occupation that is very rewarding. Hindi po ba? Okay, but I'm sure as bloggers, no, it's very rewarding for you. Tama? Ang gaganda ng mga smile nila na hindi ako. Gusto ko na rin maging vlogger. Okay, our millennials basically are looking for something that would fulfill their passions. Di ba? The passions, nourishing the soul, but at the same time, satisfying, because we need to earn something for ourselves and for our families. Di ba? So that's what being a Sun Life financial advisor gives. No, these are the rewards that a Sun Life advisor enjoys. You will hear more about this later straight from a financial advisor when he shares his journey and how Sun Life has helped him live brighter. His story is very interesting, very real, very inspiring, and something that your followers can relate to. Now, for this evening, our featured speaker is definitely very inspiring as well. He's a familiar face since he was not just a contestant, but the winner of the Asian reality TV show, The Apprentice Asia, Season 1. Napanood niyo ba yun? Okay. He became Chief of Staff for Air Asia for a year, and that was his prize, reporting directly to the Malaysian business magnate, Tony Fernandez. He was born and raised from humble beginnings in Manila. Our speaker is a multi-awarded marketing and human resources professional with over 10 years of experience, iba-ibang industries, telecommunications, pharmaceutical, aviation. In 2012, he was honored as one of the top 7 marketers of the Philippines under the age of 35, so very young, in the Mansmith Young Market Masters Awards. Today, he is one of Asia's leading motivational speakers on topics such as leadership, Gen Y, kasi Gen Y na Gen Y siya. Gen Y workforce and office productivity, with Fortune 500 companies among his clients. His motivational books, which you can actually see outside, di ba meron sila doon naka-display, From Great to Great and Fast Forward, are among Southeast Asia's bestsellers. So we should not miss reading those books. Our speaker also served as the founder and managing director of his own marketing consultancy firm, that is JY Consultancy and Ventures, which offers marketing and talent solutions to Asia's budding startup scene. Ito po ang medyo na-inspired din ako, no? When inspired more than the usual, our speaker dreams of becoming the next president of the Philippines at the age of 45. Ibuboto ba natin siya? When he retires from the corporate world. So tandaan po natin yun, ha? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jonathan Yabut.
Thank you. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Good evening, guys. Good evening. You guys are good? Yes. This is a very casual, informal space, by the way, so I guess it's a good crowd. You guys came from work? Yes. Naglakad na ba yung iba? Alright. Thank you again, Sunlight, for having me here. It's a great honor to be in front of a lot of aspiring millennials who I associate myself with as well. So for the next 30 minutes, I'm just here to share with you some journeys of inspiration about making it great in life and being able to succeed, because life is all about living it brighter and better despite the difficulties. So my talk is basically from great to great, the lessons from the Apprentice Asia, and majority of the lessons I'll be sharing today are scenes that happen behind the camera during the Apprentice Asia. So a lot of you may have seen, those 1-hour episodes, but a lot of you don't know that they are 5-day shooting episodes. And I'd like to share what happened behind that and what were the lessons, leadership-wise, success-wise, etc., that I think may be your story as well in the future. So these are the 12 contestants. If you're following Tony Fernandez's Twitter account, 2 months ago he announced that the season 2 is coming this year. Of course, he had to make the QZ8501 crash quite a bit. That's why it took him time to revive the TV show once again. And if you're 19 years old, knows how to speak in English and has an Asian passport, you are eligible to join the Apprentice Asia Season 2, as long as your boss allows you to be out for 3 months with no guarantee of getting your job back, if ever, because it's a winner-take-all. It's a winner-take-all situation, guys. If you lose, Andrea, the first runner-up, didn't get anything. And that's how tough the competition is. So just log on to axn.com/ApprenticeAsia, and the application forms are there starting, I think, 2 months from now. And who knows, the next winner might be a Filipino again, which I'll be very happy to be announcing as well. All right, quickly, here's a clip of the Apprentice introduction.
From across the region, Asia's best business brains are heading to Kuala Lumpur.
I'm not here to compete with anybody else. You only compete with yourself.
Selected from thousands of applicants, 12 candidates will battle it out for a dream job with a 6-figure salary.
This is not just a job interview for me. This is the job. I deserve it, and I want it.
But to succeed, it will first have to impress the boss, Mr. Tony Fernandez.
I will bring out things you never believed you had in you. And I'm good at that.
A self-made man, Tony Fernandez is one of Asia's greatest success stories. A groundbreaking entrepreneur, Tony has built a diverse portfolio of businesses, putting his hand to everything from hospitality to sports franchises. Mr. Fernandez is most famous today for revolutionizing the aviation industry. As chairman of AirAsia, he's established the company as the fastest growing, most profitable airline in the world. Known for his drive, passion, and commitment to equality,
You can achieve anything that you want to do.
to be his apprentice, they must simply outshine the competition.
Accompany Mr. Lee straight to his room now. Now.
Next. Shut up.
And survive his grueling 11-week interview process.
There's no excuse. Don't make excuses. You happy with losing? You have your chance to be fired if that's what you want.
What have you brought to the table in terms of creativity?
You always say, I. It's just an attitude problem.
Let me explain.
No, I've heard enough. Sounds a bloody disaster.
12 candidates.
I made sure that you are on the money. I got your back on this.
Yes. You drive it down, it's down the road.
Why can't you guys stick to the time?
Not doing that. What's all it?
One job.
Girls, what's this?
Calm down everyone.
You come back like you want to really be my apprentice, or don't bother coming back.
Who will take the title?
It's a monumental screw up. For that reason, you're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Alright? So if that piqued your interest, there are many legal and illegal ways of watching the show online. A lot of them are still torrents. YouTube is blocking them because Sony has copyright on YouTube, so it's hard to watch some of the episodes, but a lot of them are in other offshore sites. And I'm not here to ask you to watch them just because I'm there, but because it really gives you a lot of ideas on how to work with other folks, especially from other nationalities, and in light of globalization. All right. So quickly, I left AirAsia last 2015. I remember one time Tony and I were getting drunk in Hong Kong, and he told me, "John, you have to leave because I don't want you to keep on making me rich. I think you have your own story to tell, and it's time for you to venture on your own." And so I created my own consultancy firm in 2015. The JY Consultancy and Ventures. We're headquarters in Kuala Lumpur today, and I fly every 2 or 3 weeks in Manila to look at my other employees as well. And recently we're expanding to merchandise as well. We're very proud that we're going to be in national bookstores soon. In most bookstores, we're into notebooks, planners, and everything that's about success tools for millennials as well. I really come from humble beginnings. Just to give a background about myself, my parents come from a very small town called Malinaw in Aklan. Anyone here from Panay region or from Visayas? All right, cool. Taga saan po? Kalibo! Wow, okay. That's 30 minutes away or 20 minutes away from Malinaw. Na-excite talaga ako, no? My parents didn't really have my mom is your typical Asian tiger mom who wanted the best for her kids. And so one day she and my dad migrated to Manila and enrolled me to an all-boys Catholic private school because that's how she thought she would give the best education for me and my brother. Unfortunately, for me to be in that school, I had to be the first honors in class. Which fortunately, because my mom again is an Asian tiger mom, I was able to become as such. From grade school down to high school and down even to university, I was a scholar all along. If I was only third honors, I would be only getting 50% scholarship. If I was second honors, I'd only get 75% scholarship. So you can really imagine how for the 12 years of my life, I was really financially and academically pressured to succeed. Otherwise, my mom would always tell me, "Anak, you're gonna get kicked out if you don't make it as number one." So that's the first thing about myself. The second thing I'd like to share is, I remember this time during junior senior prom. Do you guys remember your JS prom? Yeah. Yes? The junior senior prom is something that's very unforgettable because that's where you do your dance, you say goodbye to your high school classmates, you venture out to university. And during that time, it was done, in my case, it was done in Manila Hotel, one of the grandest hotels of Metro Manila that time. And I remember, wala pang Uber and Grab by that time. And I was brought to the hotel by my dad in a motorcycle. So sabi ko, "Dad, when you fetch me later around 2 a.m., please don't go to the front, the lobby, because all of my classmates were being fetched in really shiny cars. Most of my classmates were sons of ambassadors and politicians. And I was arguably the poorest kid in class. So sabi ko, please fetch me at the back door entrance." Alright, because naka-motorcycle siya. So you can't fake it, wala pang Uber, walang Grab. And I was really, really embarrassed about this. If it was like a Seiko film, like, umuulan, nasa putikan ako, and I would shout, "Bakit ako hinahanap ko?" That's how I would feel. And this was a time of my life when I realized that I want to get out of this mediocrity, and I want to be that kid from Manila who can prove to the rest of the world that you can never be too small to dream big. That if you want something so bad, you're gonna get it done because you know you deserve to get it done. So that's the second thing. The third thing I'd like to share is this. When I was a freshman in Diliman, and you know how it feels when you're a freshman, right? University, clean slate, no one knows you. You think you're gonna be the next Mark Zuckerberg. That's how I felt. When I was rubbing soap on my right breast, when I was taking a bath on my first day to school, I realized that there was a lump growing. Weeks passed and months passed. Akala ko tagyawat lang. Walang nana na lumalabas. And so, what happens is, a few weeks later on, me and my mom go to, Me and my mom go to the hospital, and my mom and the doctor, I can clearly remember the first 6 seconds when the doctor was touching that lump, and he says, Jonathan has a cyst, and we have to take it out because he's a candidate for breast cancer. The doctor told us that there was a 0.0000085% chance for males to have that cyst. But the moment you have it, it can be terminal breast cancer. And so I cried. I remember going home, calling up my friends, and told them the situation. I told them, if I die and get buried, please play the song Semi-Charm Kind of Life by Third Eye Blind, because it's my favorite song of all time. Obviously, that didn't happen. The song was never played. And I'm here to share that story because that was the other aha moment of my life when I realized that if you want something so bad, if you want to become the next CEO of a great company, if you want to become the great father, if you want to become the next president of the Philippines, which I really aspire, because I think this country needs a lot of help these days, I'd like to think that you cannot afford to wait for next week, next month, or next year. You have to strike while the iron is hot, because you'll never know if the clock will stop ticking for you. You may be laughing today, enjoying a space, and then tomorrow you're dead. And so I'm not here to wish that all of you would have a cyst on your right breast. It's really painful, guys. It's local anesthesia, by the way. I had the breast for 3 months afterwards because it was inflaming. I'm here to wish that all of you would realize that the only enemy of the ambitious is time. I'd like to think that in today's world, when technology is spoon-feeding us with so much opportunities for success, if you don't succeed in the next 5 years, I'd like to think it's already a consequence of the choices that you make in your life today. And that there's no one else to partially blame but you. So I want you to remember this talk and look at yourself in the mirror 5 years from now and ask yourself, have I become that person who I wanted to be 5 years ago, and am I killing it? And I hope your answer is yes. So quickly, in the next 20 minutes, I'm just like to give 4 quick lessons from The Apprentice. And my first lesson is this, and this was stated by a Roman philosopher named Seneca. Anyone here knows this guy? No? I also don't know him. I only place his name because it makes me look credible. But he really said this. And he said, success is when preparation meets opportunity. In life, there are 2 things, the predictable and the unpredictable. The predictable things, for example, are if you're a sales guy and you know you're going to be meeting a client 3 days from now, you know you need to study that client. In school, if we know that our bio exam is going to happen next month, we know we have to prepare for it. I'm sure by now you know that humanity, science-wise, is proven to be risk-averse. We love predictable things because we know we can prepare for it. Humanity doesn't like unpredictable things, which unfortunately also do exist. For example, you don't know if the person who will make you smile for the rest of your life, probably in this room, if you're still single. You don't know if you step out of this room and you get struck by lightning. You also don't know that. In fact, a lot of unpredictable things in life are bad and sometimes are sad to the point that, it makes life not worth living for. But the great thing about unpredictable things is that they can also come in some good ways, such as opportunities that may only knock once in your life. And what Seneca is saying is that if the predictable meets the unpredictable, and that's in the case of preparing for unforeseen opportunities that may only knock once in your life, it can mean success. I want to give some anecdotes about this. I've shared my story about The Apprentice and how I was a big fan since I was 17 years old. This was my, if there was Netflix 10 years ago, like if I was, binging on Sense8 or 13 Reasons Why, this was that when I was in high school. And I was such a big fan that I watched all episodes from all countries. You name it, Apprentice UK, Apprentice Czech Republic. I've downloaded illegally all the subtitles from torrents.com because I really love the show. And I really thought, I remember those times. This is really so dramatic and cheesy to say now, but I remember that I had a lot of bedtime sessions when I was pretending to be the contestant, as if I was answering the questions of the TV host, whether it was Donald Trump or whoever TV host that was. And I was really, it was such a fantasy when it was my turn to be finally on TV, saying that, wow, I'm actually here. And I'm like, I wanted to pinch myself twice if it was really happening or not. So I was psychologically preparing myself after all, even if I didn't know that there was going to be Apprentice Asia. But here's the bigger catch. I think I won, not because I was the smartest guy, but I think I prepared the most for this man. And this is Mr. Tony Fernandez. And my biggest insecurity about joining the show is that I didn't know who he was. He still laughs at it when I tell it to him. But I told him that in the Philippines, until Air Asia was launched or until Apprentice Asia came about, he wasn't that popular compared to how he's popular in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore. So I was very insecure because a lot of the other contestants knew him already. So what do you do if you want to know more about a person? If you're applying for a job or if you have a crush, you want to know more about the person, what do? You stalk the person online. And that's what I did. I went to YouTube, I watched all 34 interviews of Tony that time. And I realized that there was a pattern in every video interview. He mentions the words youth and accountability 5 to 6 times. He mentions the words leadership and passion 2 to 3 times per interview, which means these were the qualities that he was looking for in a candidate. When it was my turn to be in the show, I knew that I had to surface out these qualities and prove to him that I was worthy of being chosen as the apprentice. I think I won because I was the most prepared. And I'm sharing this because I think a lot of millennials in this room, most of us are victims of what we call as the hashtag YOLO. We have a big project coming up the next week. You have a big, exams happening next week or tomorrow, but you don't study or prepare for it because kaya naman diskartehan. And so you go out with your friends, go home at 3 a.m. because the next day it's hashtag YOLO. I disagree with this. You can never be too prepared for the next big thing that can happen in your life. And as Benjamin Franklin says, when you fail to prepare, you're only preparing to fail. I want to expound further with this one. Who here loves cooking? Okay, here's an easier question. Who here loves eating? Alright. When I was younger, I wished I wanted to become a chef, but my parents couldn't afford to send me to culinary school. So when I finally had the chance to do it 2 years ago, I entered one, and I couldn't forget the first thing that our chef instructor taught us. And that is the concept of mise-en-place. Mise-en-place, anyone? Who's familiar? Mise-en-place is a French term which means to filter. It means that it is a taboo for any professional cook or chef to start cooking without having all ingredients in front of you. So the onion must be chopped, the beef must be marinated, the dato puti and silver swan must all be in arm's length. Question, why do you think they have to do this? Because it's ironic, it's against the virtue of multitasking, which we need right now in an age where time is always lacking. But they take time. They have the sacred activity of having to create a mise-en-place. Why do you think so? Anyone? I don't have a jacket to give away, by the way. Anyone? Yes?
I don't really cook, but maybe because time is of essence and the ingredients will change, the properties will change by the second.
Okay, by the second. Yep, could be. But let's say, for example, it's like onion, garlic, beef. So the properties won't change as much, even if you prepared it an hour ago or maybe a few minutes later on. But still, you have to prepare them.
Make sure everything is there.
Okay, and therefore?
You know that you will finish in a specific time, and you know that the product will be there already. It's like visualizing or...
Okay, so that's one. Thank you for saying that, the word visualization. Because cooking is a visual art. If it's not in front of you, you will likely forget it. And it's important to put the first, the second, down to the last ingredient, probably in a form of hierarchy. So that's one. But there's a more important reason why mise-en-place is applied. Yes?
So that you will not lose the momentum.
Specifically?
The spontaneity of cooking.
Okay, specifically which part? Like, alright, dig deeper. So what do you do with the oil? Come on, because I only have 30 minutes here, guys. I can't afford to extend my talk. Come on.
So you don't burn.
You don't burn, that's right. When your oil is already at the optimal heat, you can't afford to wait any longer. You have to put the ingredients immediately. But the problem is that if you multitask such that your oil is already so hot and you're still chopping the onion, you will likely mess up the entire dish. In Filipino cooking, what is that one ingredient that the moment you burn it, even if the rest are really cooked well? That's right, garlic. And the idea behind mise-en-place is that you execute at the right timing. And successful people practice mise-en-place. not just in cooking, but in their daily lives. My biggest pet peeve are corporate folks who, the moment they wake up and get to their cubicles in the office, the first thing that they do is to have, wish that they would have a zero inbox. And so they start answering all emails until 10 a.m. and taking and bragging about that they now have a zero inbox. And then you ask them a question, but did you make money today? And usually their answer is no. And that's because there's a difference between being busy and being productive. I don't care if you've answered all 1,000 emails. If that's not what you're supposed to do that morning, you lose and someone else's win. Mise-en-place is being able to identify what needs to get done first that morning, what needs to be prioritized, and then you attack and execute only when you have identified which ones are you going to commit to for the day. What am I cooking here, guys? This pasta? Do you think I need a mise-en-place for this? Maybe. But it's also easy, right? You can really cram this. And this is how a kindergarten or high school student's mise-en-place looks like. For most of us in this room, our mise-en-place actually looks like this as adults. And this is paella with over 24 ingredients. Imagine your oil is already hot and you haven't even chopped a single ingredient. What do you think is going to happen? It may burn, or you will still be able to cook, right? You will still be able to toss all the ingredients, but most situations, you will end up tossing them for the sake that you have to cook it. But the question is, did you cook it at your best brilliant effort? The answer usually is no. You'll end up cramming. You'll end up doing the task for the sake of finishing the task. Successful people do not do this. They create a mise-en-place, and they first strategize, and they look at the battlefield before they start attacking. Lesson number 2 I'd like to share, and this is one of my favorites. You don't need to say yes to every opportunity of success. Success also means knowing why and when you should say no to someone. So raise of hands, who here has a to-do list that they make use it, like mental to-do list or a notebook to-do list? The rest are just inefficient people, I guess. Boring people. It's okay. Jesus loves you if you don't. That's fine, but I hope you guys do that. Doesn't it feel like you're a Superman or a Wonder Woman if you're able to cross out everything? Yes. But if you don't, you feel like you're less of a person. You feel like you've failed the day. You don't need to, because humanity and science tells us that we cannot accomplish too many things at the same time. In fact, science experiments show that we only multitask up to 3 things brilliantly. Doing beyond that makes ourselves weaker and thinner. So I'm going to give again another anecdote. And I'm going to do this in the form of, let's imagine a TV show called Grey's Anatomy. You guys are familiar with TV show, right? Yeah. And let's imagine we're one of the doctors. There's a bus of 40 passengers in front of you. You're in Seattle's Grace Hospital. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You cannot call other doctors. 5 of you only versus 40 passengers in that bus crashing in front of you. And the moment you see it crashing, fire happens. Some of the passengers are about to die. Some are losing their sight, their limbs, etc. If you're one of the 5 doctors, what's the first thing you're supposed to do? Assess the situation. All right? And I hope you don't do that for 1 hour, right? You have to assess it fast. But what else? And you have to make a decision. And what's the decision?
Type of injury and see which.
Determine the injury and?
Usually that's the air. So if you're in a hospital and you see your patient doesn't have enough air, that's the first one that you...
Okay, but there's 40 passengers, guys. There's only 5 doctors.
Divide.
You can't be gremlins. You can't multiply yourselves, right? So what do you do?
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. I mean, 8:1 ratio is so poor. You will likely not end up any life saved. What do you do? Sorry? Okay. What do you do? 40 passengers. You're all assessing them. You prioritize. Come on, guys. You know this. You prioritize those who need the utmost help. And in triage, and this is the term what we call it. This is what we call as triage. It is the process or the art of filtering those who need the utmost help and those who are the most important to survive. We apply this in terms of calamities, earthquakes, wars, whatever it is. And in triage, we also painfully and regretfully abandon people who will die anyway. Because we know that even if you dance in front of the gods, nothing will happen to those patients who will die anyway. And so you focus your efforts on those who will likely survive and who are important to survive. Life is also like this. Every day, every one of us in this room face 40 passengers. Passengers that come in the form of emails, phone calls, people, friends, loved ones, ambitions, and dreams. And we all feel like we have to save all of them. But at the end of every day, we know that we don't. And yet every day we still wish that we don't. And every day we still attempt to save all of them. Successful people don't do this. Successful people practice triage. And that they have the courage to say no to things that they know that even if they're pretty important, they must be let go. If you look at the successful folks, you guys know who these are? Yep. So who are these folks? Richard Branson, Jackie Chan, Jack Ma, sorry. That's Jack Ma. Who else? Steve Jobs. When I was younger, I called him Warren Buffet. Married is Warren Buffett. And then you have Bill Gates and Oprah. If you look at their books, if you look at their biographies, there's one thing common among all of them. And I'd like to think that Warren Buffett says it best. And he says, for every 100 opportunities presented to me, I decline to 99 of them and only focus on one big thing and make a name out of it. Trying to spread myself too much on things I'm not good at or am too ambitious to achieve will only make myself weaker. You look at Steve Jobs, you look at an Apple store today. How many things can you buy in an Apple store? Let's count, come on. An iPhone, what else? An iPod, what else? MacBook, an iWatch. How many SKUs? Are there any from FMCG or retail here? How many SKUs? Less than 12, less than 10, right? And that's because in the case of Apple, even if they have 12,000 patents in the US, some of which can be converted into any product or service, Steve Jobs refuses to convert them into a new product and service. And says, nope, we're not going to be tempted to do so many things because we want to be good at only one thing. And for the past 20 years, Apple has been great in one big thing. And what is that? The iPhone. But I think the iPad is also great. I think the iWatch is also great.
And thinking differently.
That's right. The one thing that Apple is really selling is the iOS. Because the iPhone is just a phone with an iOS. The iPad is a tablet with an iOS. The iWatch is a watch with an iOS. The future of iCar is a car with an operating iOS. If I technically put an iOS today on a table, it can be an iTable as well. This is the power of focus. The ability that even if you have so many temptations, that you want to do so many things in life, you want to become the next Taylor Swift, the next Mahatma Gandhi, you want to become everything, you still have that power to say, I can't be everything. Because in the age of digital media, hyper-specialization is the way to go. And so you're able to say no. When Steve Jobs was asked the question, Steve, what is one thing you're very proud of in Apple today? And he says, I am as proud of what we don't do as I am with what we do. Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. In other words, it's not a question of the things that you accomplish by volume. It's also a question of quality. I love this quote because it tells us that your success tomorrow is not just dependent on what you write down in that to-do list today. It's also dependent on what you decide not to write down, because it's only going to distract you from the bigger things that you ought to accomplish. I want to give one more example, and I come from the airline industry for the past 4 years. And one of my favorite stories comes from Delta Airlines, in which Delta Airlines once in 1993 had a cabin crew member who suggested, boss, may I suggest to please take out the lettuce because I don't think our passengers are eating it. And it only makes the garbage rot so bad every time we throw it out inside the plane. So management was very surprised. And the first time, they didn't like the idea, but they were open-minded to experiment and explore. And so they took out the lettuce. And in the first 3 months after doing a survey, the passengers either A, did not notice that the lettuce was there to begin with, and number 2, a lot of the passengers thought that the plate even looked cleaner. And so Delta Airlines said, wow, it's working. Let's continue taking out the lettuce. And in 1 year, just because of taking out something small such as the lettuce, Delta Airlines saved 1.4 million US dollars. Imagine how a small thing led to such big savings for this company. I think the moral lesson, however, is bigger. The moral lesson is that just like Delta Airlines, most of us in this room are those who keep so much unnecessary lettuce in our lives. Something that we thought is important, but really, we have to let it go. And so my assignment to all of you tonight, guys, is to answer, do you have some lettuce? And identify what that lettuce is that you think you can let go. Here's the other catch. Most of you may think that that lettuce is a something. I also like to think that that lettuce can be a someone. That someone that's been keeping you from your success, something that you thought was important. Remember, guys, for every no that you say, it gains you a yes to something else. And that yes must be something that truly, truly propels you towards success. As the song goes, let it go. Second to the last, in order to stand out, you also need to stand back. And I want to talk about leadership here now because, again, guys, success is about personal leadership. And leadership is not just about having a group of people to follow you. Leadership means being able to influence someone to get that objective done, even if that person doesn't like you, and even if that person doesn't like his job. And what I'd like to believe is that organizations and companies or even countries are only as great when they have great leaders as well. I want to give some anecdotes from Apprentice Asia. Here's a picture of a guy on a spotlight. And I'd like to think that a lot of Asian leaders today, whether it's in Fortune 500 companies or in the government sector, believe that leadership is all about putting the spotlight on the leader itself and the rest of the people automatically follow just because the organizational chart says so. I disagree with this. And scientifically, it's been proven that the great leaders are those who sustain themselves in the long run because they put the interest of their people at heart. The leaders who last are the leaders who also eat last. And I'd like to share some anecdotes here. So this is Andrea, she's the first runner-up of Apprentice Asia. And that's Alex, he's the second runner-up. And Andrew came from Singapore, and Alex is from China, but he's from France, so he's an expat. They had to put the white guy in the show, just so expats have someone to root for. And I remember in the last few episodes, Alex grabbed me into the kitchen. He said, "You know what, John, I don't think you deserve to be in the final two because you did not volunteer many times as a project manager. If you're familiar with the format of the Apprentice Asia, you have to raise your hands many times so that the CEO can notice you. If you win that episode, you get bonus points. But if you lose, you get automatically nominated in the bottom three." And so he was accusing me that I was afraid that I might get kicked out. And so I did not, at many times, volunteer as a project manager. But my answer is simple. You know what, Alex? This is the reason why a lot of millennials don't succeed. Because no matter how great you are as an individual contributor, you will not get promoted if you don't have enough leadership skills. And in those moments when someone else in our team, in that episode, was better than I was in doing that job, was passionate, more passionate than I was in doing that job, or is even better than I am in doing that job, I took a step back and I let that other person shine. Because the real role of a leader is to make more leaders out of others. And that once you become a leader, it's no longer about you, but the people that you serve. The leader is simply the instrument and a representation of the people and what the people want, and not the other way around. I worked for these companies a few years back. My first ever company as a management trainee was with this telecommunications company, and later on I moved to the second largest pharmaceutical company in the world, which is GSK. When I was 27 years old, I was that guy who got promoted every year, walang palya, as in every year. And finally, and this was the year before I joined Apprentice Asia, that's my boss at the back. I clearly remember that it was the first time in my career that I did not get promoted. I went to the cubicle of my boss and told her, "I saw the email, my name's not on the list, and I did 1, 2, and 3 brilliantly. Why am I not promoted today?" And she tells me, "John, calm down. Remember that time when you had a brilliant presentation to the CEO, and I ask you out for dinner to celebrate such a great PowerPoint deck, and I ask you to tag along any of your direct reports. At the age of 27, I had three direct reports, and someone so young as a junior manager in that company. And when the dinner came, I came alone because I thought it was all about me, and I wanted to discuss my future career with my boss. And my boss said, that was the time, John, when I realized that you're not worthy of getting a bigger desk because you're insecure to share the limelight and you're insecure to share the stage. And that's why you're not going to get promoted today. Until today, I share the same story to my colleagues. When I work in Malaysia and Singapore, and I have lots of AirAsia colleagues who ask me, John, I've been in the company for 10 years, I always make the best reports, send the fastest emails, I make the most amount of sales. Why am I not promoted? And my answer is simple. You're a great individual contributor, but the moment we assign you people that you need to manage, you don't delegate, you don't trust, and you don't make them shine. That's why you're going to be forever a great individual contributor. And that's why you're not going to get promoted. Leadership is pullership, not pushership. If you're familiar with the London 2012 London Olympic Games, there were two companies who were trying to outperform each other with the amount of tweets based on their hashtags. Adidas used the hashtag take the stage, and Nike used the hashtag find greatness. Every time an Olympian won a medal, they used this hashtag. Who do you think of these two companies had a higher rate of retweets or usage? Nike? Adidas? Anyone? Come on guys, shout it out. No one's gonna eat you if your answer is wrong. And it starts with being confident with your answers. Alright, find great. So I'm hearing a lot of find greatness, and I think the answer is the same as my thoughts as well, which is people resounded to find greatness because they thought that Adidas was rather selfish because it was all about the athlete. Find greatness, meantime, means that even if it's the Olympian who won, we find greatness to what they've accomplished. And in doing that, we get inspired that we can also come from being a zero to becoming a hero. Leaders are like this. When your ship is about to sink, there's no one else who can inspire your people best but the leader himself. Number 4, and again, this is my second favorite one. It's not about working hard, but smart. And I guess my lesson here is, I hate people who go to the office at 7 in the morning, go home at 11 p.m. every day, believing that they deserve to become the best employee of the year. I disagree. If you're accomplishing that task for 14 hours, and another person can do the same task with the same amount of quality for only 4 hours, you're working hard and the other person's working smart. And at the end of the day, I will always promote a person who works smart. The people who work smart knows how to use technology to make things efficient, knows how to delegate tasks to other people because they trust that other people can do the job, or they defer. So I always tell people I apply my 3 Ds in life. When you have too many things to do at work, you delegate, you defer to another day, and my favorite number 3, you decide not to do it at all. And in doing smart, I prefer to have workers who work smart because at the end of the day, they have more time to sleep. They have more time for their family. They have more time to travel and be inspired so that when they go back to the office, they're even more engaged to contribute for the company. I want to give some anecdotes again about working smart. So this is me and the other contestants of the Apprentice Asia. And this is film nga pala, no, so I can't say much about having the behind the scenes. Let me change my how do you call this? The stories here, things I can say publicly. In the Apprentice, you are only allowed. You're always put in a room, and you see that on TV, right? You're put in a room. You have to do your own household chores, and one of the things that we've always had a problem of is our food, our clothes, and all these things. We were only given one washing machine and all these things. And so I realized that I could not be putting all of my energy into unnecessary things that will irritate my day. All of my best energy must be allotted only to the boardroom and to the task. And so what did I do? I worked smart. Because I've seen so many episodes from other Apprentice franchises, I knew that one of the biggest issues was ironing clothes. And so I brought my magic weapon with me, and that is this. So props to the brand because they're getting promoted now. I love this because every time, you just need a water and socket for you to iron your clothes. And in any TV show, when the lights and cameras are broken down, you're not allowed to do anything but just stay put. And in those moments, I would always bring my clothes with me, and I would always steam iron my clothes. The next morning, while all the other contestants are cramming about their you have to look your best in front of the camera, I was the only guy sitting at the countertop of the kitchen, enjoying my piece of Zen, my hot mug of coffee, while strategizing how to kick out Andrea and Alex of the competition. I work smart. Another anecdote is this. So these are the beautiful ladies of The Apprentice. And by the 8th episode, you really just want to go home and sleep in your bed because it's a very, very exhausting. You wake up early in the morning, you get home to the apartment late at night, and I realized that the winner of the show is not the most intelligent guy. The winner of the show is the guy who had the most nutritious breakfast, the most amount of stamina, the most amount of sleep. And so for you to win, you need to derive artificial energy. And so I brought my extra weapon again. And again, I'm sorry I have to endorse this brand, but I'm not. And so my other magic weapon is this, which is extra jaws. I brought extra jaws only because it could have been any energy drink, but the beauty of it is that it came in powder form, and so I was able to easily hide it in my pocket. Every time the producers would say, "All right, contestants, you have to start in 2 hours. Please prepare yourselves," I would go hide in a cubicle, get the mineral water bottle. I had to hide because I don't want to share any to my other competitors. I mean, you have to be the best one who has that energy. And so, after a few hours, I was the only guy who was like high on caffeine and B6 and B12. And I really can attest to this. I really think I was able to extend my shelf life in the competition because I have that artificial energy. I work smart. What is the moral lesson here? The moral lesson here isn't that drinking energy drinks makes you smart, right? That's not the moral lesson. The moral lesson is that before you even execute and jump into any task, always zoom out first before you even zoom in. And that is questioning the status quo and ask yourself if this is the best strategy for attacking. Questions such as, should I even do this? Maybe someone else has done it. Am I duplicating someone else's task? Or is there always a better way to do it? I'll give you one example. Who here uses Mozilla Firefox or Chrome? Who uses here Internet Edge or Safari, for example? So there's a really nice study from Stanford University that shows that between the two groups who use a certain browser, one of them is likely to outperform their colleagues who use the other kinds of browser simply because of the kinds of browser that they use. And guess which one is it? Chrome? Safari? The answer is those who use Mozilla or Chrome or Firefox versus those who use Safari and Internet Edge or Explorer. Can you guess why? Yes? Okay, you're almost there. But here's the catch, guys. They perform almost equally. They have a better computing. They're almost good as each other. But there's a reason why the person who uses it is even better than the other.
You can open multiple tabs.
Yeah, but you can also do that with Internet Edge. And I'll make this fast now because I don't have much time, guys. And the answer is simple. The people who use Chrome or Firefox challenged the default installed software. And that they told themselves that something must be better than this. And so they took the extra time and effort to download a browser versus those who said, all right, there's Explorer, there's Safari, I'm going to use it. And this is where successful people separates themselves from the average. Successful people are never contented with one-time victories. They work smart because even if they see that something is out there controllable in their hands, they always look out for something that can be better. If you've seen this movie, have you guys familiar with this movie? Yes. Yep. Catching Fire? In the last few scenes, when Katniss was about to shoot an arrow to Finnick, what did Finnick say to Katniss, if you remember? It starts with letter R. Right? I think it was mentioned many times at the start of the show. Letter R? Run away? Okay. They can't really run much, right? Because it's a very controlled. Remember?
Remember who the real enemy is.
That's right. I wish I could bigyan ng jacket naman yan, no? Just kidding. Remember who the real enemy is. And I love this line because it's an epitome of what's working smart versus working hard. Katniss believed that all she had to do last year, and that's what she did, was to keep on killing the 11 contestants. She was summoned again in the quarter well, and her perspective is, alright, I'm gonna kill another set. And if she gets summoned again next year, she's gonna do the same thing all over again. Effective, but hard, and not sustainable because it's not gonna make sure that you're really gonna win every year. Finnick was saying, you don't need to keep on killing people. What we need to do is to kill the capital. Because no more capital means permanently no more Hunger Games. And there's a big difference between working smart and working hard. I want you guys to think about those situations in your life where you were bragging that you did something so hard and long. You were in your Excel spreadsheet for 5 hours, but something else was easier to do it. I remember my dad lining up for a passport renewal. So he went to the office at DFA, this was in early 2000, nagdala ng pillow, may monay at may mineral water bottle. You know, the works of a guy. And then I tell him, pa, you can do everything online. And so it doesn't matter if you've toiled so hard for it. You're working hard, but other people are working smart. And people who work smart will always win at the end of the day. Peter Drucker says it best, and he says, there is nothing quite so useless as doing with great efficiency something that should not have been done at all. You know those spreadsheets wherein you're in cell number A543 and your formula was so great, but you were in the wrong cell after all? And you have to do the entire thing all over again? That's working hard. But if you zoomed out at the very beginning and checked first if you were in the right gear or in the right cell, you did not need to do everything all over again. Last lesson, and it's where I end. I'd like to believe that success is democratically out there for everyone. And that is success is measured these days of what we call as grit. And grit is something that I've been inspired about. My first book is called From Grit to Great because I was inspired by this American psychologist named Dr. Angela Duckworth. And she has a really nice 6-minute, for me, life-changing TED Talk video about it. If you have a chance to go to YouTube, just type her name, TED Talk, Grit, and she's the first one that comes out. And in her studies, she tried to prove what makes people successful in life. And so if I were to summarize her studies, success, based on her hypothesis, are composed of, let's say, IQ. Do you agree? That was her first, right? A level of intelligence probably makes you successful in life. And of course, if there's IQ, there's EQ, right? Or emotional maturity. The ability to know that when you're mad at someone, you know why you're mad at that person and you know how you can control that person. One of my mentors told me when I was younger that you don't need to be the smartest guy in the room, John. You should hire people smarter than you. But you need to have that emotional maturity because the smarter a person is, the more prima donna his behavior is as well. And so your goal is to traffic different egos and personalities to get things done. So there's IQ, there's EQ. What else? Okay, we can put all the Q's here, guys. Oh, what else? Let's get all the Q's. And I think this is the reason why I want the apprentice Asia. Anyone? Chris, you know? Chris, by the way, is my Sun Life advisor who came here today. Thank you for coming, Chris. Anyone? Come on. Good looks. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's right. So maybe good looks. There's a study by the Harvard University that says, what makes American CEOs get promoted into their positions? And the first thing they thought was IQ, which apparently was wrong because some of them didn't have that high IQ. It was apparently this one other physical trait. And guess what it is?
Height?
That's right. That's height. The American average American CEO is 6'2". That's because in the science of body language, for you to exert power, you have to look big. The eagles flap their wings, cobras make themselves bigger, monkeys puff out their chest, and human beings make themselves look taller by standing straighter. Is that the reason why women have to wear heels, by the way? And the idea there is that sometimes, and this may be unfortunate, but it's true, when you have a level of likability based on your looks, you may have an edge over someone. Agree?
Yes.
Probably? That's why I think Sun Life advisors are really good-looking people. I think so. Alright, so there's beauty, and there's also fitness, and there's also, well, she looked at all of these parameters. And in her studies, she went to look at the National Spelling Bee of New York, of the United States, looking at how many students would advance to the semifinal round based on the kind of training that they do. She went to the New York public schools looking at which teachers will stay longer in their jobs despite the really bad pay. And she went to the West Point Military Academy, the PMA version of the United States, trying to predict which cadets will stay longer despite the really tough training. And all of her experiments, it wasn't IQ, it wasn't EQ, it wasn't good looks. It was rather this one thing that led people to make them more successful in life. And guess what it is? Of course you know that because that's my punchline. And that is the value of grit. And Dr. Angela Duckworth states that grit is passion and perseverance combined for a very long-term goal. I want to emphasize the value of long-term goal, guys. Because the idea of grit is not a one-time, big-time effort. This is not like high school or university wherein you spend up to 4 a.m. studying for an exams, and that's it. Grit is that every time you make that amount of failure or embarrassment, you get up, you dust yourself off and pick yourself up again and say, I'm going to get it done because there's no one else who will get this done but me. Grit, I'd like to believe, is like answering that Nescafe. I'm not going to get the brands now, sorry. Grit is like being able to answer that Nescafe commercial that says, para kanino ka bumabangon tuwing umaga. Emphasize tuwing umaga because it means it's an everyday basis. And if you can't answer this question, I'd like to think you don't have the right to complain about life because you're not inspired enough to know what you really want to do in life. Successful people are gritty enough to believe that even if they have so many failures in front of them, they get it done. My Cinderella story in The Apprentice Asia is a story of grit, I'd like to believe. Remember, I was the youngest contestant among the males with the least amount of experience. I was that insecure guy who didn't know who Mr. Tony Fernandez was. And yet I won, not because I was the smartest guy, but I think because I was the grittiest guy. I told myself I was that guy who's seen all 254 episodes of other Apprentice franchises. I can't afford to lose something that I've been dreaming of since I was young. I was that guy from Manila who wanted to prove that you can never be too small to dream big. And I also remember this. This was my third source of grit. This was November 15, 2012, when I was stalking my ex on Facebook. And I told myself, when I was stalking, I suddenly saw the TV commercial of AXN saying that the application for Apprentice Asia is now open. And so I told myself, I'm going to join this TV show because I want that person who broke my heart to finally see me on TV, the tune of Adele singing, "We Could Have Had It All." And then you lost it. Now here's the problem with grit. Unfortunately, you cannot buy grit in the nearest 7-Eleven store. Neither can you pick it up on the floor. It is rather your duty and responsibility to inspire yourself every day and discover what that grit is. Today, and until today, this is where I'm inspired. I don't think I'm really that smart. And I always believe in the threshold theory. The threshold theory states that you don't need to be super smart. As long as you have that minimum level of intelligence needed to get something done, everyone is equal, and what separates them from the rest is execution and consistency to execute something. Because even if someone's smarter than you, but he easily gives up or is too complacent to get it done, you're still gonna get ahead of that person. This is why, and again, a lot of studies from Harvard and Stanford can prove this. If you remember all the valedictorians or salutatorians in your class in high school, and if you compare their level of success, they don't necessarily become the most successful in their batches as well. Because as we age, execution matters more than your intellect or your skills or your talents. I want to prove this with the last one, and because you might say that I have a very abstract tip. John, how do I make myself grittier? How do I make myself more inspired every day? And one practical tip I'm going to leave with you guys is this concept of growth mindset theory. This is an idea developed again at Stanford University by Dr. Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed. That if you want something, for example, if you don't like math and math doesn't love you back, As long as you keep on practicing those math drills, a person with a growth mindset believes that he will still be better than someone who did not do anything at all. A person with a fixed mindset rather believes that if he's not good at something, there's no point on exerting effort into it. And so having a growth mindset means that even if you have a bad boss, for example, you love it. Because a bad boss even prepares you for a worse one in the future. And that having a bad boss makes you appreciate what good leadership is. Because you tell yourself, I'm not going to be like you and it's my turn to become a boss for someone else. Having a growth mindset is similar to that quote that says, the same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. The same fire that melts the butter toughens the steel, which means it's not a question of what life throws into you because they're all unpredictable. It's rather how you react. And successful people are those who have a growth mindset believing that for every failure, it always comes with learning. And here's my point, guys. When I fail on something, I don't call it failure. I call it as a near win. And near wins means that I almost got it, but probably it's not my time, or because I need something else to get it done. Dr. Carol Dweck experimented this on kids, and she had this experiment about a preschool in which when they were asked the question, kids, did you get a perfect score in your math exam? And the kids' answers were not a simple no. Their answer was, not yet. And that's because in their mindset, even if I've not perfected my exam, I've not yet because I know in the future I will. And that is the power of not yet. It may not be your time today or because you need an extra amount of effort or skill to get it done. You guys are familiar with this? This is not EDSA at 7 p.m. or at this time. These are neurons. This is how your brains expand the more you put information into it. It's just like any thumb drive. If you need to put more music or movies, you have to expand the capacity. The brain works like this. The more you keep on learning, the more the brain has to have those neurons interconnect with each other to process more complex information. Dr. Carol Dweck exposed them to a group of kids and told them that even if you fail and you make embarrassments in life, that's fine because your brain keeps on growing. Your brain keeps on interconnecting with the neurons keep on interconnecting with each other. 10 years later on, when she looked at these kids, the kids who were able to see these kinds of photos persevered more when they were facing challenges. Why? Because they did not believe that failure was a permanent condition. Failure is a necessary evil for you to succeed in life. And that's what makes gritty people than those who settle for less. So I want to ask you guys in 2017, do you have a growth mindset or do you have a fixed mindset? I hope you have a growth mindset. Because growth mindset means that every time you fail, it's a near win. And that every time you fail, you know you're still winning. You know you're still getting something out of it. This is my last slide. And again, whatever company you join, and I'm not here to promote Sun Life just because I'm talking about this. I want to disclaim, by the way, because before Sun Life invited me, I happen to be a Sun Life user already, which is a great thing. I'd like to believe that you succeed in life because your purpose is not just to pay the bills. Your purpose is because you know that you have to give back to society. I'm not sure that's how you believe in life, but that's how I was raised. That's how I was raised by my parents and by my university. And we all believe that for every success that you have, it is nothing if you don't share it with anyone else. And so if you look at the companies today, companies like Uber, the reason why they're successful is because their belief as a company is not just to make money out of fetching people from point A to point B. But their idea is to make transportation more efficient. And this is why their employees are proud of who they are, because they know that they're making a change in society. You guys are familiar with this company, Tetra Pak? Yes. Your cartons and your juice and milk? You know, if you go to Fort Bonifacio or in Makati tonight, and you work for Tetra Pak, and someone asks you out for a drink, and the girl says, so where do you work? I mean, when you go to clubs, that's what happens, right? Like, they size you up, and they say, where do you work? And if you say Tetra Pak, it's not the sexiest company to work for, right? When you probably say Tetra Pak, the girl would say, ano yun? Right? Rather compared to when you say, I work for Google, right? Or I work for this company. You know, it's a sexy thing that you can say about your identity. But if you look at Tetra Pak and if you look at their employees, and I've made talks for these companies in the past. I'm so amazed on how their employees are so engaged because they believe that for every Tetra Pak they send out into the market, they're helping someone out there who doesn't have refrigeration to make food and beverage last longer. And that for every milk carton that they send to Syria or Afghanistan, where people can't even afford to store their food properly, they're extending the shelf life for this food and making people alive and survive. You look at Starbucks, and if you look at their Mr. Schultz, their CEO, what is one thing that he mentioned that they're in the business of? I know they're selling coffee, but he says we're not in the business of making coffee. We just happen to make great coffee. We rather are in the business of blank. And what is that?
Helping farmers.
Farmers, okay.
Experience.
Experience? Ambience, that's right. So they're in the business of inspiring people, such that in every cafe that you enter, you get transported to a new universe that suddenly you can transform your life as well. That's how a Starbucks experience is. And if you look at, for example, companies like Sun Life, and here's where, when you want to venture in a company like this, guys, and this is where I become sincere now. I don't want you guys to enter a company just because you have to pay the bills. I want you to remember that for every client out there, that you're able to seal that contract or policy. You're not just making you're not just making yourself pay the bill, you're helping someone get a protected future. And this is where I value the idea that it's not about selling insurance, it's about selling ambitions in life. And I guess this is why Chris is here, because I asked Chris to come here, by the way. Chris was there for, what, 3 years that I know Chris now? Chris actually wasn't supposed to be my financial advisor because she was referred to by my high school teacher who migrated to Canada, and she ended up. And I think that started in 2013, and now she covers my entire family, my dad, my mom, and my sister as well. And I want to share the story of Chris because I know Chris from the time that she started up to the time when she told me, I remember this, Chris, when you told me that you finally have your own car. I remember that, and I felt like you really deserved it because I know how you work hard for what you do for Sun Life as well. I'm not saying this because I get paid for what I do, but because I really think, Chris, you deserve what you've been doing so far. And si Chris as in, pupunta yan mismo sa bahay just to see my parents and just to see how they're doing. And it's not because she sells the insurance, but because she looks at the pati health ng mom ko, like how was your test, how, etc. That's how meticulous she is as well. And I really hope that that kind of sincerity happens to every agent that we have, here in the Philippines. So again, Chris, thank you for that as well. So my last question is this: what is it for you, for your organization, guys? Whenever you venture to any business, any company, what's in it for you? It's not just about paying the bills. It must be something more sustainable. It must be something bigger and stronger in life. And that is your social purpose. That is your social mission. I do these kinds of talks not because I want to make money out of it, but as early as now, and here's where I want to be honest, because I want to campaign that when I run for office in public service, I want to prove to you guys, I want to make a better country. If no one can fix EDSA, I will fix EDSA. That's what I want to happen. Because for someone who's traveled in so many countries around the world, and what I hate is that every time I get asked, where do you come from, John? The first thing we talk about always is poverty. The first thing we always talk about are the domestic helpers in Dubai and Hong Kong. And after having seen these folks, I always tell these folks, I want to send these people back home because they deserve to have a better life back home. So, that's it. And I'm going to end with this last quote, and this is from Zig Ziglar. If you feel intimidated that a lot of people are ahead of you in the race, don't. Because you create your own race and you create your own finish line. And so you don't need to be great to start, but it all starts with day one. And this is where people most fail. Because their day one gets extended to day 1002, and they don't end up doing anything else. You have to start now. And so you have to start for you to become great. Maraming salamat po, and I wish you the best for